2018 was a special year for Scotland, as it was and still is the only country in the world to dedicate an entire year to celebrating those aged 8 to 26 years. This included allowing young people to run and organise events, present them different awards for excelling in certain areas, create new volunteering opportunities for them, and played a part in creating the largest parkour display to ever happen in Scotland. The display attracted thousands, with every part meticulously planned by only a handful of people. So let's have a look at the Youth Urban Games. The Year of the Young Person was set up by the Scottish Government to focus on the contribution of a group of people and inspire Scotland through its young people, celebrating their achievements, valuing their contribution to communities, and creating new opportunities for them to shine locally, nationally, and globally. This included allowing them to have their views heard on topics that impact their life, improve the public's view of young people by showcasing their talents and presenting them in a positive way, recognise and showcase the positive impact of crucial adults on young people's lives, and create and provide more opportunities for them to work and volunteer now and in the future. The entire year was a huge success, with 110 events being co-created and delivered by over 13,100 young people, taking place in 31 different local authorities and attracting a total of over 756,000 people to those events. There were 17 signature events run directly by YOYP and 32 funded events which were run by other organisations. And one of those organisations was Scottish Canals. Scottish Canals have been set up as part of a greater initiative to rejuvenate and improve the area of Hamilton Hill, which, despite being right on the edge of the city centre, was becoming very run-down, unattractive and hostile. The plan involved improving footpaths, putting down artwork, creating cycle paths, and installing various pieces of standard fitness equipment throughout the area. However, after bringing on board parkour equipment design specialists Ukemi project, the plans for the fitness equipment changed for the better. The standard equipment suddenly turned to unique exercise equipment, a selection of fitness bus stops, a parkour park, and a movement festival. As there was already a strong connection between these two organisations, when Scottish Canals decided to host an event for the Year of the Young Person, a fair with music, food stalls, water sports and entertainment, but with an urban sports twist, they knew exactly who to turn to run the parkour section of the day. And very soon the planning for what would eventually become the Youth Urban Games began. When it came to the planning of the parkour section of YUG, there were two main aspects that got the most attention: the stage design and the layout of the day. It took around 3 months to decide on the best possible structure for the all-day parkour attraction. Initially, David Banks of Ukemi was asked to make it a competitive parkour event. However, after speaking to the heads of the Scottish parkour community at this point, they realised that a competitive event would be incredibly divisive. It wouldn't truly showcase what parkour was like in Scotland at that time, nor would it attract a suitable parkour crowd to both watch and participate. So they decided to structure the event with elements of a competition to keep the general public engaged, but would actually make it non-competitive to keep the performers and the parkour community happy. With regards to the stage creation, this took Tim Pearce of Ukemi and Andrew Cronin of AIM Parkour Academy in Wales around 6 months to design and build. But it wasn't just as simple as designing a bit of equipment. To make it attractive to Scottish Canals and the funders, they created 3 different packages: a bronze, a silver, and a gold. These not only included the equipment, but also the athletes themselves and the activity aspects. Gold was obviously the most expensive and largest setup, with international athletes taking part and all sorts of different activities happening throughout the day. Whereas bronze was the cheapest and the smallest setup, no international athletes, just Ukemi running some workshops. After some back and forth discussions with Scottish Canals, mainly about how no, they couldn't have the gold package for the price of the bronze one, they settled on a version of the silver design, but really it was just a mix of all three. But this is where they ran into a major issue. UKEMI had nowhere to store the equipment before the Youth Urban Games was to take place. How were they going to build and check that this design of theirs was actually going to work? Thankfully, Andrew from AIM stepped in and bought the equipment in Wales, built it in a warehouse, had a certified scaffolder tick it off and confirm its safety, dismantled it and stored it in said warehouse until YUG was to take place. On the morning of the event, the equipment was transported to Glasgow, built into the stage, and then had to be checked by the event's safety coordinators. A tense moment for UKEMI and AIM, because if the coordinators deemed any of it unsafe, they wouldn't have a stage or equipment for the day. Thankfully, all that was needed was one more 45-degree brace anywhere on the set, and it would be deemed safe to use. With that sorted and the participants all warmed up, it was time for the Youth Urban Games to officially open.
We're here at the Youth Urban Games, all the athletes are here, the park is ready, the people are coming in, the opening ceremony is starting. We're looking forward to seeing you all here.
The parkour section of the Youth Urban Games included 3 activities that are usually competitive but were run in a non-competitive way. 3 small jams, a workshop, and 2 performances. The non-competitive competitions, let's call them, were speed runs, chase tag, and performance runs. The speed runs were completed in teams in a relay fashion. A predetermined route would be set, and once one member of a team had completed it, the next member would go. This continued until every member in the team had been. And then it was the opposing team's turn. Once both teams had completed the course, they would go again, but with the aim to beat their own score, not the opposing team's. Between attempts, the teams would be told their group times and individual times, and it was up to them as to whether they wanted to share that with the public or not. The performance runs were essentially your stereotypical style runs. Although the participants weren't going up against each other competitively, it was their chance to show off to the audience what they could do. Pip Anderson went first in order to demonstrate to the audience, along with the MC, what was going to happen. After that, the remaining athletes took turns in whatever order they wished, with the runs lasting anywhere between 10 seconds and 2 minutes. As this wasn't a competition, anyone could enter regardless of age or ability. The chase tag section was obviously a bit competitive, as it's very difficult to run something like that completely non-competitive. However, this was mitigated by every participant having at least 2 to 3 turns, as odds were they got the chance to be part of both outcomes, and the sheer volume of matches made who was the winner or loser less of a thing. Unlike the other sections of the parkour display, the chase tag got a lot of tweaking on the day to get right. Initially, they started with way too many people, a 10v10 with no room for running away or running towards, just a load of hands flying around. Eventually, they reached the perfect format of 2v2 games, each running for 10 seconds with a game of rock, paper, scissors at the start to decide who was going to be catcher or evader. And those were the non-competitive competitions. The jams, which in the parkour world usually run for a good few hours, were in 3 30-minute installments throughout the day, with a 10-minute one thrown in every now and again whenever there was a pause in activity. The jam sections communicated to the audience aspects of training parkour that aren't usually seen by them. It showcased participants battling mental blocks, recovering from falls, and the equality with regards to celebrating different achievements. In the middle of the day, workshops run by Parkour Generations Glasgow, Parkour Syllabus, Access Parkour, and West Coast Shift allowed members of the public to learn key parkour skills and to replicate the moves that they were seeing within the various performances. Over 100 people of all ages took part in the workshops, the majority of which had absolutely no parkour experience. First thing in the morning and first thing in the afternoon, Parkour Scotland, AIM Academy and Pip Anderson provided the audience with performances to hype them up and show them the potential of high-level parkour. And before they knew it, the event was over. After the event concluded, the stage and equipment was split between AIM Parkour Academy, Movement Park, and Hadorkan Tricking Academy. Ukemi managed to pay each performing athlete £300 for their time, as well as contributing towards the travel for some of the further travelling athletes. Ukemi themselves, however, were paid in dribs and drabs over the next few months, and only received a total of around £1,000 each. This was for their time on site, so coaching, running the event, building and collapsing the scaffolding. All of the planning, organising and designing went unpaid. Regardless, Ukemi was proud of the product they had created and felt they had successfully ran a non-competitive parkour event that enticed and attracted both the general public and the parkour community. The opinion throughout the parkour community was largely the same. It had been a fantastic event. Scottish Canals themselves were thrilled with how the entirety of the Youth Urban Games had gone and promised the public that it would definitely make a return. But due to funding issues and COVID-19, it never did. I hope you enjoyed this documentary on the Youth Urban Games and Ukemi project. In my next video, I'll be sharing how a form of exercising, usually thought to be a current trend with links to parkour, is actually steeped in its own rich history and culture. See you around.